Be me, mid-30s, an aerospace engineer by trade, but my true passion is the meticulous restoration of antique timepieces. My home is my sanctuary, a quiet cul-de-sac, mature trees, a perfectly manicured lawn that I tend myself. My house sits on a generous half-acre, meticulously surveyed, boundaries clearly marked. I bought it specifically for the peace and quiet, the privacy afforded by the expansive back lot. I'm a creature of routine, a stickler for order, and someone who believes deeply in property rights and the sanctity of covenants. I knew every line of the HOA rules before I signed the papers. I sleep soundly. Be not me. Brenda, my new neighbor, moved in 6 months ago. Fresh money, old attitude. Drives a monstrous SUV, paints her house a garish shade of terracotta that clashes with everything within a mile. Thinks rules are suggestions, boundaries are theoretical, and the world exists to facilitate her whims. Her yard, formerly a tranquil haven, is now a chaotic mess of half-started projects and unkempt weeds. Her very presence feels like a discordant note in a carefully composed symphony. The first hint of trouble came subtly. Her landscapers, a rotating cast of day laborers, started leaving their equipment on my side of the driveway apron. Minor, easily rectified with a polite word. "Excuse me, could you please keep your tools on your property?" I asked, smiling. Brenda, emerging from her garage, gave me a dismissive wave. "Oh, it's just for a bit. We're busy," she chirped, then disappeared. The equipment stayed. I moved it. Then came the parking. Her numerous visitors, often arriving in loud pickups for what sounded like late-night parties, would frequently park half on my lawn. Not just the driveway apron, but significant portions of my perfectly manicured turf. I left notes politely. "Please avoid parking on the grass." The notes disappeared. The cars did not. One morning, I found a deep rut in the sod where a heavy truck had spun its wheels. My internal thermometer began its slow, steady climb. This was no longer an inconvenience. It was a deliberate disregard. I installed a small, unobtrusive motion-activated camera pointed at the offending section of lawn. Silent, patient. The third, more egregious offense involved the shared fence line. A perfectly good 6-foot wooden privacy fence. Standard for the neighborhood. One afternoon, I heard a cacophony of banging and sawing. Brenda was installing a custom, bright pink flamingo-themed tiki bar, complete with thatched roof, directly against the fence. It wasn't just tacky, it was a structural nightmare. It leaned heavily on my side of the fence, visibly warping the panels. Worse, the constant banging was shaking my house, interrupting my delicate work on a repeater. I walked over. "Brenda, excuse me," I called over the din. She peered over the fence, a drill in one hand, a smirk on her face. "Oh, neighbor, what can I do for you?" "That tiki bar," I began, gesturing. "It's leaning on my fence, and it's making a lot of noise. It's also against HOA rules to attach structures to the shared fence." She laughed, a harsh, braying sound. "Oh, relax, it's temporary, and it's just a fence, lighten up. What's a little lean between neighbors?" She gestured dismissively at my pristine yard. "Besides, you've got so much space, what do you care?" That was it. What do I care? The words echoed in my mind. She believed my concern was petty, my property inconsequential. I retreated, no longer smiling. My patience was not limitless, it was merely deep. And every inch she pushed, every rule she broke was being carefully logged. I started with a polite but firm email to the HOA, attaching photos of the leaning tiki bar, referencing the specific covenant. The HOA sent a warning letter. Brenda ignored it. She painted the fence panels on her side bright pink to match her monstrosity, effectively defacing my property. My eyes narrowed. The breaking point arrived with the grand vision. Brenda decided her existing garage wasn't sufficient for her needs. She wanted a multi-purpose entertainment annex. This wasn't some prefabricated shed. This was a full-blown structure, complete with plumbing for a wet bar and a small bathroom, a sprawling covered patio, and a dedicated sound system. Without any permits, without any HOA approval, and crucially, without any regard for property lines. I woke one Saturday morning to the cacophony of heavy machinery. Not landscapers this time, but a small excavator and a crew of construction workers. They were digging a foundation. And this foundation, according to the temporary stakes I could clearly see, extended a solid 3 feet into my property. 3 feet. A significant chunk of my yard, right where I had planned to expand my small workshop. I walked out, my heart rate steady, my voice calm despite the internal fury. "Good morning," I said to the foreman, who looked harried. "What exactly are you building?" He wiped sweat from his brow. "Annex for the owner. Brenda, right, says it's approved." "It's not," I stated, "and you're digging on my property. My property line is clearly marked by the survey pins." I pointed them out, small, almost invisible brass caps in the ground, but undeniable to anyone who knew what they were. The foreman frowned. He pulled out a crumpled blueprint. "Well, this shows it all on her lot." "Her blueprint is incorrect," I countered, pulling out my own copy of the official subdivision plat map and my personal property survey, professionally bound and notarized. "Here, you can see the setback from the lot line and the precise boundary. Your current excavation is 3 feet over." He measured. His face fell. "Boss, this is bad," he muttered into his phone. Brenda emerged, hair in rollers, a fluffy robe wrapped around her. "What's all this fuss, neighbor?" she asked, her tone already accusatory. "Your construction crew is on my property," I stated plainly. She scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. That's my land. I had it measured." "By whom?" I asked. "Because my survey, which is on file with the county, clearly shows otherwise, as do the original subdivision plans." "Oh, you and your little lines," she waved her hand. "It's a few feet. What does it matter? I need the space for my annex. It's going to be fabulous." "It matters," I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper, "because it's my property, and you are illegally encroaching on it. If this continues, I will be forced to take legal action, and I will ensure you are held responsible for every single penny of the cost to rectify this." She laughed again. "Good luck with that, Mr. Engineer. I know people. You're just a fussy old man with too much time on his hands. My lawyer will eat you for breakfast." She turned to the foreman. "Keep digging, boys. He's just trying to scare you." The foreman hesitated, looking at me, then at the official plat map in my hand. He looked at the survey pins, but Brenda's glare seemed to win out. They started the excavator again. The digging continued deeper into my land. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just an annoyance. This was an outright assault on my property, my peace, and my very right to exist undisturbed. The methodical burn inside me turned into a molten core. She wanted a fight. She had found one. The master plan began immediately. I didn't engage further with Brenda or her crew. I simply picked up my phone and started making calls. First, the county zoning and permitting department. I filed an immediate complaint, citing encroachment and lack of proper permits for the scale of the structure. I had all the documentation ready. Photos of the original stakes, a marked copy of my survey, the date and time of the illegal excavation. They sent an inspector within the hour. The stop work order was taped to Brenda's door before lunch. The excavator sat idle, a monument to her arrogance. This was just the first step. My real plan was far more intricate. I spent the next few days in deep dives. I pulled up the history of the HOA, its governing documents, the original land grants, and every single county ordinance related to property development, setbacks, and nuisance laws. My background in complex systems analysis wasn't just for rockets, it was for dissecting bureaucracy. I found several critical loopholes and enforcement mechanisms that Brenda was completely oblivious to. First, the HOA covenants. Article 7, Section C, specifically stated no construction or alteration of permanent structures without prior written approval from the Architectural Review Board, which required a complete set of stamped blueprints and a county permit. Penalty: immediate cessation of work, fine of $500 per day of violation, and full responsibility for all costs of demolition and restoration if not brought into compliance within 30 days. Second, the county zoning laws. Building without a permit was a significant offense, with escalating fines. Crucially, any structure built over a property line was considered an encroachment and subject to mandatory demolition at the owner's expense. Furthermore, if the encroachment caused any structural damage or drainage issues to the adjacent property, the encroaching owner was liable for all damages and remediation costs. I noted that her foundation, now partially poured, would certainly interfere with my established drainage patterns. Third, and most devastating for Brenda, was the nuisance clause in both HOA and county ordinances. Her incessant parties, the constant noise, the general disarray of her property all contributed to a pattern. But the tiki bar was the real gem, attached to the shared fence, causing structural damage. That was a direct violation of property integrity. I had documented every single instance of noise, parking violations, and her landscaper's trespasses. My security cameras had recorded every incident, every car on my lawn, every second of the tiki bar construction. I had time-stamped photographs for everything. I didn't just complain, I built an ironclad case. I compiled a binder thicker than a phone book, meticulously organized with tabs, indexes, and cross-references. Each complaint wasn't just a grievance, it was a line item in a growing bill. I sent a formal notice to the HOA board, certified mail, return receipt requested, demanding immediate action on all documented violations, not just the new annex. I cited their responsibility to enforce the covenants and warned of potential legal action against the HOA itself if they failed to act. This put the fear of God into the board members, who were mostly retirees just trying to enjoy their golden years. Brenda, meanwhile, was fuming about the stop work order. She called the county, tried to argue, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. They told her she needed a proper survey, approved plans, and my written consent if she was encroaching. Her lawyer probably told her to back off, as she started laying sod over the half-dug foundation, trying to hide the evidence. Too late. I had drone footage of the entire process. 2 weeks later, the HOA called a special meeting. I was there, looking impeccably dressed, my binder clutched in hand. Brenda was there too, looking furious, flanked by a bewildered-looking man who introduced himself as her legal counsel, clearly a family friend or a recent law school graduate. The HOA president, a mild-mannered former accountant, looked visibly uncomfortable. "Brenda," he began, "we have received numerous complaints regarding your property, specifically from Mr. Peterson." He gestured to me. "And the county has also issued a stop work order for unpermitted construction." Brenda scoffed. "It's all a misunderstanding. My neighbor is just a busybody. That little bit of digging was nothing. I fixed it." "Fixed it," I interjected, calm as a lake, "by attempting to conceal an illegal foundation that still sits 3 feet onto my property, damaging my drainage and potentially undermining my land." Her lawyer spoke up. "Mr. Peterson, my client has removed the offending dig site. She has no intention of building on your property." "No intention now," I corrected, "but the damage is done, and the foundation is still there. More importantly, the original unpermitted construction, specifically the tiki bar attached to the shared fence, remains, which is a clear violation of Article 7, Section C of our covenants." I opened my binder to the relevant page, complete with photos of the warped fence, the pink paint, and the structural stress. Brenda turned red. "It's just a silly tiki bar. Everyone has backyard decorations. Not ones that are structurally tied into a shared fence, deface common property, and were constructed without a permit or HOA approval," I corrected. "And it's not silly when it costs the HOA money for future repairs, or potentially causes a liability issue." I then laid out the daily fines, the required demolition, and the responsibility for restoration. The HOA board members gasped. The lawyer looked increasingly pale. "Hold on, Brenda, is this true? You didn't get permits for any of this." Brenda glared at me. "He's just trying to cause trouble. It's personal." "It became personal when you ignored my polite requests, parked on my lawn, defaced my property, and tried to build an illegal structure on my land," I said, my voice cold. "I have photographic evidence, drone footage, and detailed logs of every single interaction, every violation, every instance of trespass and nuisance behavior for the past 6 months, all time-stamped, cross-referenced, and ready for court." I slid a neatly organized USB drive across the table, labeled Brenda's violations. "This contains everything, including copies for each board member." The HOA president cleared his throat. "Brenda, the evidence here is overwhelming. The daily fines for the TIKI bar alone, given its construction date, now total over $7,000. And that doesn't include the cost of professional demolition and restoration of the fence." Brenda slammed her hand on the table. "This is outrageous. I'm not paying for any of this. He's making it up." "I assure you I am not," I said, leaning forward slightly. "And if you refuse to comply, the HOA has the right to place a lien on your property for unpaid fines and costs. And I personally will file a civil suit for property damage, nuisance, and emotional distress. Given your clear history of ignoring official warnings, I am confident in my case." Her lawyer finally spoke up. "Brenda, listen to me. He's got you. Building on someone else's property without permits and documented violations of HOA rules. This is a major problem. He's got enough here to bury you financially." The revelation hit Brenda like a physical blow. Her face, which had been a mask of indignation, slowly crumbled into genuine panic. The arrogance shattered, the confidence evaporated. "A lien," she whispered. "You can't do that." "We can and we will," the HOA president stated, newfound backbone appearing from somewhere. "Mr. Peterson has been incredibly patient and meticulously documented. We have no choice but to enforce the covenants." The fallout was swift and brutal. Brenda tried to fight, but my documentation was too thorough. The HOA, now emboldened, levied the fines. They issued a formal demand for the immediate, professional demolition of the TIKI bar and the complete removal of the illegal foundation, including all encroaching concrete and fill, with restoration of my property to its original state, all at her expense. The county piled on their own fines for unpermitted work. Brenda's house went quiet. The party stopped. The SUV sat mostly in her driveway. I heard rumors she was desperately trying to get a loan to cover the mounting costs. Update 1 2 weeks later. All right, greentext fam, thought you'd want an update on Brenda. The TIKI bar is gone. Glorious. A crew came in this morning, tore the whole monstrosity down. HOA supervision. Pink paint scrubbed off the fence panels. New ones installed where the old were damaged. And they're excavating the foundation from my side of the property line now. She's already been billed for the demolition crew, the new fence panels, and the landscaping for my yard, plus the $7,000 in HOA fines. Her lawyer is nowhere to be seen. Victory feels meticulously executed. Update 2 1 month later, another update on Brenda. She still hasn't paid the county fines for unpermitted construction. The HOA has officially placed a lien on her property for the accumulated fines and demolition costs, now nearing $15,000 with the ongoing daily charges for noncompliance on the foundation removal. Her bank apparently is not thrilled. Saw a for sale sign go up on her lawn yesterday. It's a nice, subtle, discreet sign. Unlike her, my peace is slowly but surely returning. The quiet is a symphony. Update 3 months later. Last update, boys. Brenda's house sold. She's gone. The new owners seem nice, quiet, and already asked for a copy of the HOA bylaws. We had a nice chat about gardening and property lines. They even brought over a housewarming pie. Karma, it seems, has a deliciously bitter taste for some, and a sweet, apple cinnamon flavor for others. My lawn is pristine, my workshop is quiet, and the only thing I hear now is the gentle ticking of a beautifully restored grandfather clock. Never mess with an engineer's property lines, or their peace. Good game.